Emotional eating has very little to do with food. When you turn to food because you're stressed, overwhelmed, lonely, deprived of joy, or carrying emotions that feel too intense to sit with, that makes sense. You're not out of control, you're overloaded. And as long as you keep trying to control food without understanding the internal conditions driving the urge, you're going to keep fighting the wrong battle. In this video, I'm going to show you why this pattern makes sense and the first shift that can start to change it. So let's look at emotional eating through the lens of the two versions of you, your adapted self and your expansive self. Your adapted self formed under stress, under pressure, under over-responsibility, or trauma, chronic overwhelm, right? This version of you, it's not defective, it's protective. And food shifts your state, right? It calms activation. It distracts from painful emotion. It gives immediate relief when life feels like too much. It works. That's why your adapted self uses it. Your expansive self, on the other hand, this is the regulated version of you. It's not the perfect you, but it can feel emotion without being overtaken by it. It can pause. It can hold your long-term goals in mind while making an aligned choice. And when your expansive self is leading, you don't feel hijacked by urges. You can notice them and respond. Now, the shame people carry around food it's not proof of weakness. It's evidence that your adapted self is running the show. And every time emotional eating happens, there are three forces that are at play. The first one is survival activation. The second is a habituated brain loop. And the third is emotions that feel intolerable. And when you understand these three, shame can start to dissolve. The first one is survival mode. Chronic stress shifts your baseline. Cortisol rises, adrenaline increases, and you mobilize or shut down to conserve. You might look high functioning, or you might just be exhausted and foggy. Both of these are survival states, okay? And what results is decision fatigue. You overriding your own needs. And inside, your body is just simply carrying too much. Your system looks around for relief, and highly palatable food, it's there. It stimulates dopamine. It changes your brain chemistry. It gives you a sense of relief, right? Now, of course, your system learned how to do this. It's not a discipline problem. It's a state management under stress, right? The second piece is your habituated brain. Your brain is wired for efficiency. Cue, behavior, relief, right? The cue might be subtle. It might be a wave of loneliness, the end of a workday, an argument, just walking into the kitchen. So you eat, and your internal state shifts, even briefly. Your brain doesn't care if the relief is healthy. It cares that it's predictable. And over time, that loop becomes automatic, right? You're not standing in your kitchen making a moral decision. You're running a well-wired neurological program. And insight alone doesn't stop this behavior. And shame definitely does not. Shame becomes another cue because it increases that stress and sense of hopelessness. And the third piece is emotion. Most of us were never taught how to sit with intense internal experiences. We learned to override them. Anxiety felt like danger. Anger felt explosive. Grief felt bottomless. And when your nervous system is activated, your window of tolerance narrows. So emotions feel like threats instead of waves. And when your system is shut down, numbness feels intolerable too. So when emotion spikes, your system doesn't say, oh, let's process this. It says, we know what works. And in that moment, you're not choosing between emotional growth and food. You're choosing between distress and relief. And relief wins when bandwidth is low. For years, I thought my issue with food was about discipline, but it was about overload. I was holding too much, performing strength, living above capacity. And every day, by evening, I didn't want food. I wanted relief. I wanted something that was mine. I wanted pleasure that didn't require performance. And food delivered that for a few minutes. It was stress, eat, relief, and the loop strengthened. In my behavior with food, just like yours will, it didn't change because I controlled food better. It changed when I asked a different question, not how do I stop doing this, but what am I needing? The answer was a lower load, honest boundaries, capacity, micro doses of joy during the day instead of waiting until I was desperate. And as my baseline shifted, the urgency shifted gradually, not magically. This is how state-based patterns change. So the practical starting point for you is stop starting with the food. Start with your state. 3 times a day, check in. How am I doing? Am I bracing? Am I rushing? Am I suppressing things? Am I depleted? Notice your body. Is your jaw tight? If your shoulders elevated? Is your breath shallow? Are your thoughts racing? These are load markers. Now, emotional eating rarely appears out of nowhere. It follows accumulated activation or prolonged shutdown. Your work is not to eliminate the urge. Your work is to expand your options for relief before you hit your breaking point. 2 minutes of engaged breathing earlier in the day, 5 minutes of movement to discharge tension, a boundary that lowers load. And when your system has multiple ways to shift state, food is no longer the only exit. Choice comes back online. So the goal here is not to shame your adapted self. It's to understand it and update it. Your adapted self formed under real pressure. It did what it needed to do at the time. Your expansive self emerges as baseline stress lowers and your capacity increases. You're not trying to become someone with stronger willpower. You're reducing the load so your regulated self can lead. That's a completely different strategy. If you have been using food to cope, it doesn't mean you're weak. It means your system has been carrying more than it can comfortably hold. This will not resolve by becoming more disciplined. You will resolve it by lowering the load, expanding your capacity, and giving your nervous system more than one way to feel better. If you want to go deeper, watch the Weight of Trauma Masterclass that's linked below in the description of this video. And tell me in the comments, when does the urge show up most clearly for you? Is it with stress, loneliness, numbness, over-responsibility, all of those things? And remember, you are not the problem, you're the possibility. To receive more videos like these, make sure to like and subscribe the video and send this to somebody who also needs to hear that they're not the problem.